Just a minute. Yes, please. Introduce him, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Hazur, my friend is from Pakistan on a business tour from Lahore. His name is A. Mahmood. He is area manager for a firm over there, and today he is with us, and he will introduce. He has already met Hazur before Hazur became Khalifa at several places in Lahore. He will introduce.
Please.
Yes. Well, I had the opportunity to meet you at Gulberg. A very close friend of mine is the MD, and I met you at his residence before you became the Khalifa.
Who is he?
Bisharat Mahmood.
He held a session there of question answer.
That's right.
And some ulama were also present, and quite a few elite of Lahore were together.
Yeah, that's right.
So you were one of those.
Yeah.
Yes, we had a very good session of a few hours.
Yes, Mr. Bisharat is one of my very
Yes,
close
I
friends.
understand. Yes, that's right.
And he also took me to Hilton, where you came
when
after.
I spoke about my Spanish tour,
Yeah, that's right.
the inauguration of the mosque there. That's
Exactly.
right. Yes.
So I came here on a business trip.
What's your business?
I'm in the air cargo business.
A cargo.
Yeah.
Pleased to have met you here.
Thank you very much.
So Mustafa Sabit Sahib, before Mr. Bashir Hayat thinks he is going to ask a question, come and occupy your place.
No, Hazur, I'm not asking any question. I'm just
Answering one?
No, when after that permits me.
Fine.
After Mr. Mustafa.
If there is an after him.
After him. Yeah.
If there is an after him. Yes.
No, Hazur, further for him, you know.
Fine.
For our guest, I wanted to say that.
No, your guest can speak for himself, can't he? If he wants to put in a question, of course I'll permit him. No question. So he wants something for you while you don't want yourself. Please. No. Mustafa Sabit is our Egyptian friend. He's an Ahmadi with the grace of Allah. He's visiting here from Canada. So because he's very fond of preaching to others, he has collected some questions which have been asked of him from time to time by some Muslims, some non-Muslims, Christians and others. So because he doesn't get that opportunity so often to come here, I am giving him the preference. Sure. Otherwise, normally if you had come on a normal day, most often you will find Mr. Bashir Hayat occupying that place. Please. Yes, you come forward and sit closer as you were. He likes to sit closer to the microphone, this is why he is there.
This question is from a Christian friend, though it benefits both Muslims and Christians, in fact. The question says that God had included in His holy books all the guidance required for the benefit of mankind. What is the need for continuity of revelation after revealing those books?
After revealing the Holy Quran?
Yes.
The earlier books?
Well, because
if it's a Christian, he couldn't have said that.
Well, yes, because he is a Christian, he didn't mention any specific book. He says after the revelation of the holy books.
Yes. Holy books in general.
Yes, in general.
Please now. The fact is that the purpose of revelation is to be understood first, and what part they play in rectifying society. Are they all sufficient or something else is required? This is a fundamental question to be asked. If a book by itself was enough, only books should have been sent from heaven, as people were also demanding. Whenever a prophet came, according to the Holy Quran, people said, why not the book right from the heaven? That is the most essential part. So if a book had descended from the heaven and we could see it, that would have been enough for us. But the book is not enough. The purposes of the institution of prophethood have been described in the Holy Quran very clearly, and the book only makes one part of that. In Surah Jummah, for instance, the Holy Quran tells us, هُوَ الَّذِي بَعَثَ فِي الْأُمِّيِّينَ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ. That's the first thing. يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ. That is the book, revelation of book, being conveyed to others. وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ. It is not the book which does the skiyah, that is what does the which performs purification. It is the Prophet who performs the purification. وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ. The book is there, but a teacher is needed. وَالْحِكْمَةِ. And the philosophy, underlying philosophy is also required to be explained. So these are the purposes of a prophet. If book remains intact and the teaching is heard by ignorant teachers interfering with the meaning of the book, if the philosophy is lost or new philosophies arise in the world to challenge the bona fides of that book, then some teacher is required. Because three parts which have been mentioned here as duties of a prophet are over and above the revelation of the book. Concerning the book, of course. Revolving round the book, of course. But book by itself is not found sufficient. So this can be immediately put to test. Those who believe that the book should be enough, they know that it is the same book, Holy Quran, the Holy Quran, which was at the time of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is exactly the same book as it was at that time and as it is today. So, is there any difference in the book? Or no? None whatsoever. But is there some difference in the Muslims of his time and the Muslims of today? Or none whatsoever? The obvious difference, so much that if they were Muslims, the present day Muslims don't appear like belonging to the same Islam. And this difference set in so sharply, in fact, that at the time of Hazrat Ali Karamallahu Wajhahu, somebody asked him the difference, why there was such difference. And the retort he gave was so beautiful. He said, because Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam had people like me to follow him, and I have people like you to follow me. You see the difference in generations and their quality of sacrifice. So the Holy Quran did not change by the time of Hazrat Ali Karamallahu Wajhahu. It has not changed even today. But the difference between the quality and character of people is immense. So obviously it is wrong to say that Holy Quran by itself should suffice in the sense that it should enforce itself upon the characters of the people, their attitudes, their values, and run into their blood automatically. A performer is required, one who has direct contact with Allah. He is the one who purifies, through the help of the book, of course. But he is the one who first practices the book and turns it into a value of real life. Not a word alone, but turns it into practice. And then people begin to follow their like. When they see things in their own kith and kin, in their own blood and flesh, then they follow. Not just the books written somewhere. So the book is essential because the entire philosophy and the way of life and the teachings are contained in the book, that is the word of Allah. But to practice that word, to make it understood, to speak about its lasting values and to meet challenges arising at various times regarding that word. All these factors demand a man from Allah who is being guided by Allah. Take that man out and this will happen what has happened. Bring that man back into the picture and the things will begin to change. Among those who follow him, of course. not those who reject him. So that is the difference. The Holy Quran is still today the same as it was, but Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is missing. And that loss has never been fulfilled. Unless somebody who is subordinate to him, of course, is raised from Allah on the same pattern. He speaks to him. He gives him strength and power and guidance. And he is capable enough, with the help of Allah, to bring people back to the same spirit of sacrifice as was created by Huzur Akram Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and is so well guided by Allah that he is capable of meeting the challenges of the modern times and of the new philosophies which have been erupted from all corners of earth, challenging the validity of the book. Unless that happens, the revival of Islam is just a dream. Or revival of Christianity for that matter, if the question was a Christian. After him, yes. Another question?
Well, in fact, sir, the questioner was asking about the communion of Allah with man. What is the need for that after the guidance was already in the book?
I understand. That question was much more limited than I thought it was.
Yeah.
What is the need? That is the purpose of religion. That's not a need. The Holy Quran solves this question in a beautiful way. It says man was created for meeting Allah. That is the object. And those who deny that object, those people are destroyed by Allah ultimately. In that surah, which speaks of Christianity, the answers to every Christian are found. And because he was also a Christian, I refer his question to the verse, to the Surah Kaf, which mainly speaks of Christianity. In the end part of that surah, Allah Ta'ala tells us about the latter day Christians and what would happen to them. And I remember the verse, I'm going to just recollect it. أَفَحَسِبَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَن يَتَّخِذُوا عِبَادِي مِن دُونِي أَوْلِيَاءَ إِنَّا أَعْتَدْنَا جَهَنَّمَ لِلْكَافِرِينَ نُزُلًا قُلْ هَلْ نُنَبِّئُكُم بِالْأَخْسَرِينَ أَعْمَالًا الَّذِينَ ضَلَّ سَعْيُهُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَهُمْ يَحْسَبُونَ أَنَّهُمْ يُحْسِنُونَ صُنْعًا أُولَئِكَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِمْ وَلِقَائِهِ. That is liqa, which I mentioned. أُولَئِكَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِمْ وَلِقَائِهِ فَحَبِطَتْ أَعْمَالُهُمْ فَلَا نُقِيمُ لَهُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَزْنًا ذَلِكَ جَزَاؤُهُمْ جَهَنَّمُ بِمَا كَفَرُوا وَاتَّخَذُوا آيَاتِي وَرُسُلِي هُزُوًا. So liqa'i Rabbi, liqa'ihi, that is meeting with Allah. If that is rejected, then Allah says the very purpose of the creation is rejected, and those people are rejected by Allah who reject the liqa with Allah. And this is further mentioned in the end part of the same surah in relation to Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his purpose of coming. He tells us, he announces it to us, قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ يُوحَى إِلَيَّ أَنَّمَا إِلَهُكُمْ إِلَهٌ وَاحِدٌ. O mankind, I was like one of you, of course, but now a change has set in. And that change is that Allah has begun to speak to me. He is revealing things to me. فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ. It is not only limited to me. Whoever wants to meet his Rabb, that is wahi, because that is what is mentioned. Revelation is mentioned in this liqa. So the first liqa of the same surah is elucidated and further explained a few verses beyond that. What is meant by liqa? The Holy Quran says, Liqa is this, what was found by Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, what was achieved by Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And the proof that you have got liqa, that is meeting of Allah, is in wahi. If there is no wahi, there is no proof. So Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam tells us that innama ana basharum mislukum. I am also apparently like you, like one of you. But a great difference has set in, because God has started speaking to me. And that is liqa. فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ. So if you also want that liqa, do as I did. فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدًا. He should act righteously like I have been doing, that is understood. And should not call partners to Allah. So the purpose of creation is liqa. Liqa, that is meeting and knowing God, communion as you have put it. Communion is with God is the purpose of creation. And the Holy Prophet comes to establish the lost communion. So if he keeps the communion to himself, any Holy Prophet, and does not convey to others, he has not served the purpose of his coming. If he can't give it to others, then he is a liar, he is a false prophet. Because he came to establish the lost union between God and man. And those who reject it as philosophy and as if nothing is required, according to the Holy Quran, they are rejected. And according to the Holy Quran, the proof of communion with Allah is revelation by Allah of some sort. Wahi can be made through good dreams, true dreams, through visions, through spoken word, through words through a messenger, or as if Allah is speaking behind a curtain. All these are manners of wahi. So wahi is the purpose of life, not just a means to convey things to others, but to carry people to that loftiness. So that is the philosophy as we find of communion in the Holy Quran. And after the book, it is essential that it should follow, otherwise the book is meaningless and useless. No, please. You will have to wait impatiently until Mr. Mustafa Sabit has run out his questions.
Okay, the last question
that
for
is a
tonight.
big until, I tell you. Very remote until.
Last question, sir, for tonight.
After you, for tonight, Mr. Abdul Rab Anwar also wants to put in a question. And because he is also coming from America, I should give him preference over the local residents.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
This is also from Christian friend.
Yes.
The Holy Quran speaks highly of the previous scriptures and directs Muslims to study and refer to those books. Is not this an evidence that those books were without any corruption at the time of the Holy Prophet ﷺ? And if they were, why Muslims were directed to refer to them?
Yes. The Holy Quran does not say that they were without corruption at the time of the revelation of the Holy Quran. It has nowhere been mentioned in the Holy Quran even remotely. On the contrary, it has been categorically declared that all these previous scriptures which have been mentioned by the Holy Quran have become corrupted by human interference, by interpolation. So the question is not valid in the light of other verses of the Holy Quran. Why are they referred to? That is the big question. In the Holy Quran they are referred to for various reasons. For instance, very often they are referred to prove to the followers of those books that they are liars. They are false in their attitude. they are untrue people. Because the Holy Quran challenges them that if they are truthful, at least they should practice their book. Because they are not practicing their book, so they are dishonest about this new truth. Those who do not follow their own truth, how can they follow a new revealed truth? So because their attitude is corrupt and wrong, this is why they are not following the truth. That has been mentioned many times in the Holy Quran. So that is one purpose why those books are mentioned. In other instances it is mentioned that you are such a cruel and wrongful people that truths came to you before from Allah and you corrupted them. So again they are addressed, not the Muslims in fact. They are told, and a folly of theirs is revealed to them in so many words. It is pointed out to them that unless you rectify your attitude towards religion, you cannot gain anything from any prophet who comes. Because you have been misbehaving to your own religion to the degree that you did not hesitate to interfere with the word of Allah as it was revealed to you. So with that wrongful attitude, how can you expect to reach truth? First rectify yourself. Thirdly, it is mentioned that not the entire book is corrupted. Partly it has been corrupted, but partly in certain places where it is not corrupted, there the Holy Quran gives us the glad tidings that if that teaching was worth keeping, Holy Quran has already contained that teaching in itself. So you are not left with anything to search in those books. Had the Holy Quran told you that part of those books are good and part is bad, and it is your duty to search for the good and leave the bad out and follow the good, then it would have been very difficult for every person to select the right from the wrong. But the Holy Quran, after making this claim, also declares that whatever was worthy of keeping and whatever was correct has already been adopted for your benefit in the Holy Quran, plus some. So it's a complete book. Fiha kutubun qayyima. The Holy Quran tells us. What are qayyima? Qayyima are those teachings which have lasting values, which have not been corrupted. So the Holy Quran gives us the glad tidings that this is not just one book. Fiha kutubun qayyima. There are all the previous teachings of the previous books which were worthy of being retained. So with all this explanation of the Holy Quran vis-a-vis the previous books, nothing is left unanswered.
Thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Abdul Anwar?
There is a new awakening.
I think there will be some time left for maybe for a question by Mr. Abdul Rashid and a question by Mr. Bashir Hayat, inshallah. And by a question I mean a question in many parts, of course, as has been your wont. Yes, please.
There is a new awakening in America, especially in young children, towards scientific advancements. And one of the major questions which has been raised in training classes while teaching children is that there are life, especially in other planets, and if there is, should there be another Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam who is an exemplar, because he was only an exemplar for this galaxy, and it is only a part of galaxy, and other galaxies may require different type of Muhammad. So maybe there is a different type of Muhammad available somewhere. What Quran or traditions of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam teach us?
Yes, please. The Quran tells us that Allah is not finite, neither in time, nor in space, nor in qualities. So anything which is finite cannot be compared with that which is not finite. So what we have reached after half the eternity. So the question does not only apply to space, also applies to time before us. You know, eternity is a very strange thing. wherever you cut it, it still remains in half. If you cut it 10 million years before, that time which is before is exactly equal to the time which follows, because both have no ends, the other half as well as the past half. So that is what I mean. So if you think that religious phenomena was created only at the time of Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam or at the time of Hazrat Adam before him, then you cut God into two, and you think that only one half of God is active, the other half is just meaningless. So this is obviously wrong. Not only in space but in time, Allah has always been acting, because everlastingness requires this, otherwise it is not everlastingness. So this question obviously is attempting to limit the power of God and the character of God and His very person, and this is not correct. So what we do not know, that is the answer. The simple answer is that we know that Allah is not finite, His powers are not limited, He can do anything, He can create anything, but we are only limited with our world and limited knowledge, and we are answerable within the concepts which we can reach and within the limitations of our knowledge. So we must remain limited to our own four walls. Why to jump interfere with your neighbors and try to peep into their affairs when you can't anyway? Yet the Holy Quran tells us that a time would come when the life as found on earth would be able to meet the life as found elsewhere in the heavens. And the two types of life would positively meet. This has been prophesied in the Holy Quran. So how and when and where they meet, that we don't know. But this mankind, as we know, the Homo sapien as the scientists call him, this mankind is positively going to meet or come across some sort of life somewhere. How the communion would be established, we don't know. Whether that life would be provided with same capabilities as ours, we do not know. Whether they will be capable of following Islam or they will have another religion, we still don't know. And the Holy Quran is quiet about these details, so that means they are irrelevant. Obviously they are not applicable. Yes? No. After him I promised the two stalwarts, that is Mr. Bashir Hayat and Mr. Muhammad Abdul Rashid, please. And then your turn would come. Mr. Abdul Rashid?
Well, I have two parts in the question. I'll make it brief,
As with you, yes.
Well, so it's not a question, it's sort of a request, and I must say I'm not criticizing, I'm just curious about this. Allah likes us...
Curious or furious? What did you say?
Curious.
I see.
No, it's not curious, never in my life. Allah likes us to call Him as Allah Ta'ala, our Rabb, according to Holy Quran. Then why do we call Allah as God, as they say in Bible, which is... I'll come to that. Allah has a name as Allah and Rabb, and both of these meanings are Bharpur, which you know what I mean. And Allah has 99 attributes to His name, which we know, we always praise Him with those.
No, haven't you read a verse in the Holy Quran which says, by whichever name you call Him?
Yeah, but sir, my question is, Allah has never called Himself God in anywhere, as I can see.
Fine?
Allah has never called Himself God anywhere.
Because Allah was not speaking in English. Allah was speaking in Arabic.
Yeah, but don't you think, sir, these Rabb and Allah has more meaning than calling Him God?
Allah is the personal name of God. Allah is the personal name of God. When you translate that word into English, God is the nearest equivalent to Allah. Now meaning is always attributed to a derivative noun. A noun which is not derivative is supposed to be just a name, a noun, without any meaning. Or if there are meaning, they don't mean as far as that name is concerned. That is the name of a person. And that only indicates a personality. So whatever are the attributes of that personality, they are acquired gradually by the name which is applied to that personality. So ultimately, although the name may mean a completely different thing, but it acquires something of the personality of the person to which it is attached. So in this way, Allah, the word Allah could be meaningful because the word Allah has been described by various attributes. For instance, when you say Muhammad Abdul Rashid, although Abdul Rashid means quite a different thing altogether. But here, those people who have been coming here, when I say Muhammad Abdul Rashid, they will immediately begin to smile. While there is nothing in the word Abdul Rashid to make them smile. Because the word Abdul Rashid has acquired a certain characteristic which belongs to you. And by Abdul Rashid, the meaning Rashid or the meaning Abd does not come into picture at all. What comes into picture is the character, the person, the charming bearing of Mr. Muhammad Abdul Rashid and his innocence, which is reminded to everybody, so he begins to smile in love, of course. The same thing happens to Mr. Bashir Hayat, of course, to some degree, maybe some less or more degree, but because you have been posing yourself, you have been posing certain questions with certain bearing and attitude, which is very popular with everybody here. So Bashir Hayat has neither any meaning of Hayat in it now, nor that of Bashir. Sometimes this word acquires the connotation of a Nazir instead, to those who want to ask a question. He was like a Nazir. He settles them that, look here, I have come into the arena and no room for you anymore. So that the word Bashir Hayat, although it has some meaning of its own, yet the acquired meaning are those of being attached to the personality. So those people whom you love, their name become also lovable and they acquire a certain personality. This is why the styles of names change with the generations. Because the younger generation begins to feel that these names, Allah Rakhi for instance, are of old hags. People of old age, of that bearing. So they think that we are young, we must have some young name. And when they become old, the generation which follows, if that thinks that this name, is slightly oldish, so we must have a new name, and they may like Allah Rakhi much more than Bashir and then Zahida or Lubna or things like that. So this is because personality gives characteristic to the name. So the word Allah has acquired whatever attributes it has acquired, not in itself, but by its application on a personality which has been described by the Holy Quran so lovingly, so beautifully, that the word Allah becomes very dear to us. So if the word God has not been described as beautifully in other books or by other people, naturally a Muslim would prefer the word Allah to be used for Allah. So that is only the preference. Otherwise, if you speak of God and meaning thereby Allah, there is no harm. Yes, please.
I have second part to this.
Yes.
So it's regarding the word used, God. I was watching the program Open University on BBC television, and of course there are some subscribers, students who are atheists, So whenever they refer to God, they wrote G-O-D, and not in one word, G full stop, O full stop, and D full stop. And then they referred as generator of diversities. So that also has one meaning of God, as they meant.
Yes, because those people who represent God in certain generations, because they become generator of diversities, so unfortunately, this attribute is transferred from them to the person on whose behalf they speak. So these poor younger generations are not to be blamed as much as the fathers of their church, who actually became generators of diversities. And because they claimed they were speaking from God, so their God also became the generator of diversities.
So second question on this same part is we use it.
No, it has not become
No, it's
the
same
part
question.
of the
Sir.
same question.
It's same question.
It is the second question on the same part.
Well, we can come back again. Allow me. Is this? We use the word Maulana.
Fine?
We use the word Maulana very often in our talk.
Maulana, not Maulana.
Maulana. Yeah. What's the difference? This is what I was.
Fine.
You see, we say Anta Maulana Fansuna Alal Qawmil Kafirin. And we use it so loosely, I'm not really...
Things I have already spoken about. The word Maula is the same word as applied to Allah, as applied to a slave, and as applied to the mullah. But to the person it is applied, it acquires its character and its bearing to a degree that it becomes either lovable or despicable. So the same word Maula means a slave as well as master. That is a strange thing. But yet when you say he is my Maula and look down upon him and speak in a way of deprecation, that always means that he is not his master, he is his servant. Yes, please. So Maula word as applies to Allah acquires the same meaning as the word Allah itself. So it becomes a lovable thing. And when it is applied to the ulama, again it goes on changing its meaning from time to time. There are certain ulama who are highly lovable in their character, who are godly, God-fearing, honest, well-meaning, and highly scholarly. In whichever age such ulama are found, they are to be highly respected. And they do become respectable through their practice, and those who begin to know them begin to love them as well. So the word Maula as applied to the mullah also does not mean the same thing. When it is applied to one Maulana, it means a different thing. When it is applied to another Maulana, it becomes entirely a different thing. So as I explained the essence of names earlier, the same applies here.
Thank you, Master. Thank you.
Now Mr. Bashir here. Maybe we have still some time for you. Don't lose hope.
Assalamu alaikum.
Can you shift slightly to the left? No, not this. I asked him to shift. I didn't ask the microphone to shift.
Correct, Hazur?
Slide a bit more on the left.
Oh, this side?
That's in front of the microphone. Oh, you won't.
Correct, Hazur?
Can't you see the microphone just ahead of you? It's very interesting. Yes, that's all right. This will do, I hope.
Assalamu alaikum. Gardens and vineyards are of two kinds, physical and spiritual. Physical gardens contain fruits and flowers which provide food as well as pleasure with their fruits and flowers. Spiritual gardens and vineyards also have importance for humanity For example, the parable of vineyard mentioned in the Holy Bible, Luke chapter 20, verse 9 to 18. Would Hazur kindly let us know regarding the gardens mentioned in the Holy Quran and a hadith of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
You want me to give a complete discourse on the word gardens wherever it is used in the Holy Quran and the tradition? Is that what you want? No, I have asked you a question, you answer me. Is that what you want?
There are gardens mentioned in the Holy Quran in heavens and all this.
I know that. So you want every type of garden mentioned in the Holy Quran to be explained here.
Not every type of some.
Plus mentioned in the tradition.
No, Hazur, any, notable or any...
You first pinpoint the type of garden in which you are interested.
I have just, Hazur, read in my...
I'll explain.
Spiritual, the garden of vineyard and all this.
Which garden of the Holy Quran you want me to explain?
What I had, when I was had this discussing with some friend.
I can tell you, just sit down please. I can tell you the philosophy of a parable, why parables are used, then you should understand the meaning. Parable is to make things for you understandable and make them easy for your mental reach. And parables in a very short space of time speak of volumes on a subject which otherwise would occupy a very big space and very long description. So this is why parables are used to make subjects easier for you, not to make subjects difficult for you. And you are behaving as if parables are described to make things very difficult and complex for you. For instance, when you speak of a garden, the Holy Quran repeatedly tells us of this philosophy, that whenever the Holy Quran speaks of anything which you know, it is only to draw attention to some common factors. And if you know a thing, only then you can think of some common factors in the other part. So that is the philosophy of every parable, and whenever the attention of us, of human beings, are drawn to things which are known to them, it means that you study the significance and philosophy of these things which are known to them. The unknown would become known to you through their help. That is the meaning. So you know, as everybody does, what gardens are for, what they do to mankind, what are their benefits. So whatever their benefits are physically here on this earth, they become benefits spiritually for us for the life to come. It's as simple as that. Even when mountains are described in the Holy Quran, that is the philosophy. It says apparently we're talking of these mountains, but in reality they are only parables, amsal, for you to think over them. For example, the Holy Quran, when it speaks of the mountains, وَلَوْ أَنزَلْنَا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ عَلَى جَبَلٍ لَرَأَيْتَهُ خَاشِعًا مُتَصَدِّعًا مِنْ خَشْيَةِ اللَّهِ وَتِلْكَ الْأَمْثَالُ نَضْرِبُهَا لِلنَّاسِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. They are only examples and illustrations for mankind, so that they may ponder over these questions and think over them and enter into a mental exercise. So to enter into a mental exercise and to think, that is one of the reasons why these parables are described. So you should do that. That is the object of parables. Think of various things, why gardens are used, why they are useful, what are their purposes, when they are destroyed, why they are destroyed, what to do to them when enemies attack them, like in the form of beasts or birds or human beings, what happens to them, when diseases attack them, how they creep into them, what are the answers to those diseases. There is so much to be thought, to be investigated, so much to be said. And whatever you discover in this regard about the qualities and the nature and the dangers and the inherent benefits and the apparent benefits, whatever the nature be of your investigation, you will find that all these factors are also applicable to the spiritual world, to the garden described in the hereafter. So these things should be studied in detail, and wherever that similarity is not applicable, this is the beauty of the Holy Quran. It declares it very positively that this similarity is only for this world. It will not be applicable in the garden we are describing in the hereafter. For instance, the milk is described, and you know that milk becomes sour after a while. It becomes attacked by bacteria. So the Holy Quran speaks of the milk and immediately tells us that milk will never turn sour. So it is the duty of the one who speaks of a parable to make the distinction whenever it is necessary. Otherwise, almost entirely it would be applicable to the example which is being covered by that parable. So much can be investigated, so much can be said about just one single parable that it is impossible for me to exhaust this subject even in many sittings. For example, the Holy Quran, its revelation if it was revealed to a mountain, all this has a meaning. This is why the Holy Quran says, لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ, so that they can think and ponder. So that means so much has been said in just a short sentence that once you begin to ponder over things, you will discover so many things. And this is not the only illustration in the Holy Quran. It's so many. Ma ba'uzatan, for example. The example of a mosquito. What is meant by that example? The Holy Quran itself raises the question. Then kindling of fire, then the phenomena of lightning, then rain, its effect on the ground, its effect on various types of soil. The Holy Quran is so full of parables, it's impossible to exhaust them. And gardens are also used in various ways. Gardens of a certain people, two brothers for instance, behaving differently, and the characters of the two brothers who own those gardens, and the ultimate result of boasting of one, and so many other applications are made of gardens in the Holy Quran that it's impossible for me to exhaust the subject or even think of exhausting a very small part of the subject in one sitting. So this is why I don't encourage such questions which require independent large treatments. Confine your questions to such short things, say occupying maybe at most half an hour or 20 minutes, but not such vast subjects as which speak of commentary of the Holy Quran. Now Salim, at last. Fun?
Not for today, I got other questions.
You have some?
Tomorrow or any other, will not require so much.
All right, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Huzur, my question is about the arrangement of Quranic verses. God revealed the teachings of Islam partly and partially, time to time, and then at the time of Hazrat Muhammad, peace be upon him, he revealed all his teachings and completed his message.
But the first verse of the Holy Quran which was revealed was Ikra bismi rabbikal ladzi khalaq. But it was placed at much later in the Holy Quran, in the last part, this 30th part.
As far as I remember, either it was you yourself who asked this question earlier here in this session,
I did.
or someone else did in your presence.
No, sir.
No?
No, sir.
You were not present?
No, sir. Maybe I don't remember.
So it was, I know who did. It was Mr. Muhammad Abdul Rashid
Yes, sir.
who asked this question, but it was not asked only once. It was asked 2 or 3 times.
Sir.
And I have already dispensed with this question
Yes.
as best as I thought. So because they are preparing a catalogue of the questions and where they are answered, on which date, and all the tapes are available, so it will be so easy for you now
Yes.
to go through that catalogue and find out what you are interested in.
Sir, thank you.
And also for your information, I am telling you that catalogue of video is also being prepared by by the entire voluntary staff which is responsible for this, plus Mr. Munir, Rafiq and some others to help them. And inshallah we will have some booklets published as guidelines, and all the questions which have been discussed variously at different times, they will be brought together in 1 or 2 or 3 or more cassettes of the same type. And for a person who has got the catalogue, it would be so easy to read alphabetically the name of the subject he is interested in and see what has been spoken on this. So after that, new questions would arise, of course, and it would help us to proceed further.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's no point in my repeating the same answers to the same questions.
So the last thing, I want to request you for prayer. I'm not feeling well for a few days.
Allah help you and Allah cure you of this ailment. But this is not the last thing I know. Today you'll come again. Before first Nasir, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Huzur, I wanted to know for the benefit of others the meaning of Amir Shariat, because this title was acquired by the Hazrat Maulana Maududi Sahab, and to me
Ataullah Shah Bukhari.
Also Ataullah Shah Bukhari. And this title to some is really very great. It is only reserved for the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
No, not even that. There is no Amir of a Shariat.
So would you
There is an Amir of a people. Amir is Sahib Amr. Now I'll speak on this subject. The very construction is wrong and meaningless. You know, when the scholarly people of Islam, the earlier people of the centuries much closer to Huzur Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam, spoke of Share, Sahib al-Shariat. They never referred this to mean Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Share always meant Allah Ta'ala, because it is the enemies of Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam which make people believe that Shariat Muhammadiyya, peace be upon him, was invented by Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. While the reality is that not a single word of this Sharia or this law was made by Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Shari is not the person to whom the law has been revealed. The Shari is the person who has revealed the law. So Shari is only Allah who has revealed the law, the word. And the recipient of the word is only the recipient of that Sharia and he is warden of that Sharia. So the word Amir in reference to Sharia has neither ever been used in the Holy Quran, nor in the tradition, nor in the earlier terminology of Muslim scholars. In the first few centuries, you will never find this mention even remotely, even a shadow of this reference, as applicable to any saintly person, any scholarly person, or even to Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. They always said, Share is Allah, and Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is a model for us of that Sharia. So Amir means Sahib Amr. And Sahib Amr in Sharia is only God. And others are demonstrators of Amr, explainers of Amr. And when Amir is used with reference to men, then men become Sahib Amr, of course. Ulul Amri Minkum, for instance, in the Holy Quran. So there can be an Amir of Mu'mineen, of course, but never Amir of Holy Quran. What is Sharia? That is Holy Quran. So how could a person be Amir of Sharia? Amir of followers of Sharia is understandable, of course. But Amir of the Holy Quran, Nauzubillah min zalik, that is none but Allah. So this is a idolatry term with idolatry stink in it. So Ahmadis don't accept this term as such at all in any sense, except for Allah, but the word Allah, Amir, is not used in connection with Allah either. So this combination is just meaningless, useless, and absolutely worthy of rejection. Yes, please. Khaja Abdul Rashid Sahab, why are you limping today? Because you have been sitting too long in this and you're cramped, or are you suffering from something?
I think the former reason, sir. Former one.
Is correct.
Yes, sir.
You were sitting too long in a position and got cramped. Yes,
so my correct name is Khwaja Rashiduddin Kamal.
Khwaja Rashiduddin. Yes. His name is incorrect, Abdul Rashid?
That is also correct.
I understand the point. Yes. Your name is Abdul Rashid, Muhammad Rashid Ahmad.
No.
Rashid Ahmad?
Khwaja Rashiduddin.
Khwaja Rashiduddin. I'm sorry. Yes. So like Muniruddin, your brother.
That's right.
Now I understand. Now I won't forget.
That's the family kind of.
That's right.
My father's name being Wali Kamruddin.
Wali Kamruddin and everything. And what is the name of your brother there in Rabban?
Safiuddin. Khwaja Safiuddin.
No. The other one, the notorious, not the famous.
Naimuddin.
There is Naimuddin?
Naimuddin, yes.
Right. Yes, please.
A long time ago, I read a book by Hazrat Mirza Bashir Ahmad Sahib. This was about birth control. And I seem to remember he mentioned in that book that there should be a gap of 3 years for people who live in their own country, and 5 years for people who live in foreign countries where the relations are not living near them, and socially they are cut off from their own country. Could you perhaps throw some light on this subject, please?
That is the Hazrat Bashir Ahmad Sahab's opinion and advice. So if you agree with that advice, you should follow it. What are the gaps in your case? Is that something too private to be discussed here?
No. It's not public.
How old is your last child?
15.
He's sitting here before us. And who was the son or daughter just older to him?
She's 80.
So you have been following that advice. And asking me after you have already followed the advice? It's useless now.
My object was for our younger people here to...
The younger people should follow their parents. That is a general advice. If they are good, they should follow their parents, generally speaking. And every family, in fact, has its own patterns. That I know. In marriage and in birth, conduct and behavior, there are families who are known, famous for large numbers, and there are families who are famous for small numbers, but there are some exceptions, of course. But generally speaking, in some families you find large number of children. And so many factors go into making final decisions about it. In fact, decisions are not made consciously. They themselves are being directed by unconscious forces. The fact is that if a woman is healthy and is capable of bearing more children, then it is not a planning. It automatically happens that the people have more children, generally speaking. But if there is a standard of sophistication in the family and the people are rich enough to enjoy life, it works as a prohibitive against large families. So the common notion that the rich people should have large number of family children and the poor should have less is exactly negated in the reality of life. What happens is the poor have large number of children and the rich have smaller number of children through general thumb rule, because they have means available to enjoy life and children are a hindrance to their freedom and liberty to enjoy life. And they tax their health and time. So they are intolerant of that. So these are the two groups, and in between there are so many shades. Nervous system also plays a very important role. Some women can tolerate 15 children around them under worst conditions of life and still they survive somehow. And I have seen some ladies whose nervous system broke down with just 2 noisy children. So again, the health is also a very important factor. And the culture of a country, the conditions of a country, how the houses are built, the economic standards and so everything. So there are so many factors which automatically decide these questions, and there are few people who do it intentionally in our part of the world. It just happens inadvertently, but there are certain factors which are subconsciously controlling these decisions. In this country, gradually there has been a tendency towards smaller families. And the planning of this country also is motivated by the luxurious way of life. They do not want the standard to fall below and the new generation to claim right into the wealth so that the whole standard of the nation is lowered by their participation into their community wealth. That is the fear and the idea behind. And this is the only fear which has been negated by the Holy Quran and rejected. Birth control is permitted for reasons, many reasons, but not for this reason. If you fear shortage of food, shortage of wealth and resources, and then practice the birth control, then Allah Ta'ala rejects this. This is a crime. For other reasons, for upbringing, for health reasons, so many other reasons can come into picture. You can effect birth control according to the Holy Quran. But for this, that is fearing that you will be nationally or individually, you will be left with less wealth, less food and less provisions, that is a reflection upon God. So Allah Ta'ala rejects this. So if you follow Hazrat Mir Bashir Ahmad Sahib's argument, from that you will understand that the birth control which he is advising is not based on the fear of shortage of food. It is based on some inferences he has drawn from the Holy Quran. He says, as I know, that according to the Holy Quran, the time for looking after, breastfeeding a child, according to the Holy Quran, is about 2 years. and add to that 9 months of pregnancy and a no man's land in between. So it comes up to about 3 years. Immediately after pregnancy, birth is not, conception is not possible. So add a few months, 2 months for instance, in between, and it will come up to about 2 to 3 years. And some say 2.5 years is the period of lactation. So 9 months plus, that is 3 months, 3 years plus 3, all this would make about the reasonable gap. Now that philosophy is based on the minimum. That is to say that Holy Quran is advising you not to go too fast. Behave reasonably and moderately, and if you want to pack up children from bumper to bumper, even then the space available for you is just 3 years. Shouldn't pack them too closely. But we see, generally speaking, in the poor countries particularly, people are completely regardless of even that advice. I have seen boys born or children born after 10 months of the first child. So that is not advisable for the reasons of health, in fact, and when the period of lactation is described, that is understood. This is what was inferred by Hazrat Mirza Bashir Ahmad Sahib. As far as the 5-year period is concerned, I don't know why he said it, or whether he based this on some tradition or some verse of the Holy Quran, or it was just an advice, I don't know.
Another side that he said that in foreign countries, relatives are there to have
So it is just a word of advice. I mean, it's not anything based on religious teachings.
No, it is meant.
Yes, right, yes. Yes, please. Huh?
Just excuse myself.
Yes. Will you be coming for a prayer? Yes. So shall we wait for about 5 minutes for you to return, or 10 minutes? Huh? 5, okay. So for 5 minutes, if somebody wants to fill the gap, of course you will, but 5 minutes will be too short a space for you.
I can ask the question and those can answer tomorrow.
So why not? Why be that impatient about the question? Ask the question tomorrow. Give this time to someone who can ask a question requiring a smaller answer, which can be dispensed with shortly. Okay. That's impossible. Please. You, Mr. Nasir Ahmed.
Huzur, you have quoted today the Maulana Maududi and his quotation about the failure, na'udzubillah, for Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But in the same book, he mentioned that his aim of writing this book is to defend Islam against the accusations of Western world that the Islam has spread through the sword. In the same book. And after about 10 pages, then he comes and tells us that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a life of Medina and then this, all that. So in 5 minutes, Huzur can feel this.
It's a very regrettable paradox, contradiction. That's right.
Tomorrow I meant the next session. Tomorrow.
So you mean you can't wait that long for the question to be asked?
I can wait.
Okay. Try. Any other question which requires a short disposal? Come forward and speak into the microphone so that everybody shares your views.
Assalamu alaikum. The word Durre Samin, that name who has given, or when it was, any background of the word Durre Samin?
I don't know.
No. So,
Do you know?
no, sir.
Anyone else here who can suggest? Huh?
It could be murakkab of two words. It could be murakkab of 2 words, Dur and Samin.
We know that.
And the Dur means in Farsi is also the pearl.
Zuz is pearl, of course.
And the Samin may be
valuable, highly valuable.
Yes, valuable. So it is also a name of the other in Ghair Ahmadis of girls. I have found that they have kept.
But that's not why this collection was called Durasamin.
No, I know that. That's why it is the Durasamin, what I have given the meaning. So
we know the meaning. The point is who he wants to find out. Who called this collection of Hazrat Masih Maud poem, who gave this title to that collection?
Oh, I thought that Hazrat Masih Maud has given the title of his collection. Those
where? I don't remember.
Oh, I do not know.
Could be, I don't know. And none else here seems to know. You know?
No, not about this.
Something else? Okay, please.
Yesterday we were discussing about the babies coming without the contact of man, and in this respect I had a book in 47 I brought from Qadian, written by the Mujid of Amritdhara, and he had cited an incident in Burma.
Oh no, but that is not reliable at all.
I see. So I think
that is not reliable absolutely, because somebody says that baby was born without any man coming into contact with a girl. How can he know? How can he positively say that? Huh?
Only the claim of the woman.
Yes, so the claims can be made, they are meaningless, they are not proofs, there are no evidence at all. Only if Allah bears witness that some girl was chaste and the baby was born without the agency of a father, then of course we'll believe, and as we do believe. Or a scientist claims and also provides evidence for everybody to check and verify. That is also a way of convincingly establishing that claim. But otherwise it's just nothing, meaningless. So if there are no other questions, yes please, Anwar.
I just want to make an observation. I was here 3 days, tomorrow I'm leaving, and I saw Islamabad today.
You did?
This morning, right.
Are you very happy?
Very, very happy. I want to congratulate all Jamaat, especially you yourself. And I wish that my observation is that Huzur's arrival in London has made it happen. So I would like to request you to come to Los Angeles so that we may have Islamabad in Los Angeles.
No, but I tell you what, you first make Islamabad, then I'll come. You see? Various people requires various treatments. You know. So for you the remedy is first to create an Islamabad, then I'll come.
Request you to pray.
Okay, then Azan please. Mansoor, what you want to say?
Just coincidence, the other day I was reading the history of London Mosque, and Hazrat Khalifa Ihsani Radhiyallahu Ta'ala's message was 19th October. That was, and that just
19th of October, which year?
1924.
24, yes, that's right, yes.
And while I was reading it, points out that it's just after exactly 60 years ago, on the same day, Hazur himself has opened something. It's just a sort of sentimental
19th of
October.
Was that the 19th of October that we inaugurated?
20th. No, Saturday night. 20th. Anyway, that's similar.
So it's very close.
Very close.
So Azan please.